Okay, so we're going to do a bit of a kit overview before we do our 25K Verostolika brutality hike. I don't think it's called that, but we want to do some kit explanation for our particular impression, which is World War I Swiss infantry, specifically the 11th Infantry Battalion. My uniform is reproduction, but most of this other stuff is original. And specifics for what I'm wearing would be the tunic with green piping and tabs and things like that, which basically says, okay, this is a 1915 or late 1914 uniform, which would have been worn all the way through the end of World War I. It was replaced in 1917 with some minor differences, black piping and things like that. But this is perfectly accurate for all the way through 1918 because they wore what they had and they kept it going. You might not be able to see, but I've got my leather boots on and some Swiss surplus puttees in the French style. If you know what that is, you know what that is, but we can go with that. Very comfortable. These are what I would basically call your small shoes. Most soldiers would have 2 pairs of boots. They'd have the really big, beefy, iron-studded ones, and more comfortable shoes for in town and less insane marching. I'll get to the other boots in a second, but basically I'm going to put on what I have so you can see all the kit and how it's worn, how it's put together, and how comfortable or uncomfortable it is. Step 1 would be my Y straps and cartridge boxes. This is almost all original bayonet and original boxes. You'd carry 48 rounds up front. And to get this on, let's see if I can trip over myself and not hurt anybody. Just goes right over the top, like so, and we're good. There we go. Get that under there. Yep, that's where it should be. It helps to have a friend to help you with this, but I'll make do. This is probably going to kill the audio, but less than impressive. Come on, buttons. There we go, step 1. There we go, that's much more comfortable. Get that strap through there. You know, I really should have practiced this before we got going. But step 2, under the epaulette. And here we go. Belts are on. If I have to fix this later, I'll fix it. But in the meantime, what am I hooked on? So you can see why this is already becoming a pain in the ass. But there we go. There we go. Okay, so on the back, it's probably all twisted up. How do I look?
The Y's a little bit off to your right.
Okay. As long as it's not digging into me, okay, I'm happy. So very, very basic Swiss marching order is this. The Swiss were not particularly a mobile army. They're never meant to be because they're a defensive army. But if you were to march off to fight someone, you could go in just this, it'd be fine. But there is more, so we'll get into that. So 48 up front, weighs about 3.5 pounds. And it can get a little uncomfortable, but it's not so bad. What I have here is our best attempt at the Ordnance 1898 bread bag, or Brotsack in German. This is actually a much later one, but the pattern is identical, so I just paint them black. We're good to go. This is $15. Original ones are like $150, so we go with the cheap, and it's good. The only thing you'd carry in here is your rations for the day. It is a bread bag, and your canteen is actually in here, which you know, compared to the Brits and the Americans and the Germans, it's not so inaccessible. And there's your original canteen. So that one's dated 1916, and that stays in a little pocket in there. If I can get it back in and not get my stuff soaked, close that up, and there's a weird strap back here. There we go, it's in. So you could carry this on your knapsack, but for the purposes of hydration, there we go. If you can still hear me, I'm going to carry it right there. It can tie to your belt, but again, I'm not going to bother like that because if there's a fire, I want to get it out of this real quick. So that's that. Other than that, I can go right to the Shako. So this is a reproduction. Originals are not hard to find, but getting them in big oaf head sizes is a problem. So I'm usually a size 60 or a 7.5. The biggest original Shako I found is a 54, which is like a child size. So these are reproductions made by our friend Jim Keller out in Orleans, Ontario, outside of Ottawa. And they're actually really nice. He did a really good job on them. They're comfortable and they look good. On my head right now is our original, well, the normal barracks cap, Ordnance 1415. So again, with the green piping, matches the uniform. So if you're not out and about in the field doing training or drill or whatever, you're wearing this. It's a typical, field moots, police moots, which is the improperly pronounced German word for it. But it's your dress down hat. So I can take that off, put the Shako on. Hopefully it just doesn't blow away. Shako on, and now we look much more sharp. So very comfortable, keeps the rain off the back and the front and the sun out of your eyes. Works all right. This was introduced in 1898. They wore it right to the end of 1918 when it was actually replaced by a steel helmet, which I don't have. If it rains when we do our long range hike, we'll have the steel helmets and you'll see them. The pack is kind of interesting for the Swiss. So it's the same nomenclature as a lot of the other kits. So it's an Ordnance 1898. This one's pretty loaded up, and I can do it from the side here as long as we're in frame. Are we good? We're good. The short of it is you'd carry all of your spare clothes, cleaning equipment, washcloths, equipment cleaning kits, rifle cleaning kits would all stay in here. You got a mess tin on the back, very similar to the German and actually Swedish ones of the day. This little guy on top is an ammunition carrier. I think it's another 108 rounds, which was introduced in 1915. So it's kind of it's not a late war thing, but pre-World War I, you'd never see these because they didn't exist. Also in here is your tent pole bag for your Zeltbahn. So you get 3 tent poles and 3 stakes, almost exactly the same as the German ones, Russian, British to an extent. And here's our Zeltbahn here. So this is a nice gray one, which is they were using right up until 1953. So you'll see a lot of stuff with the Swiss is that if it worked, and they kept it, and they wouldn't get rid of it unless they needed to. Also in here are my Ordnance, believe Ordnance 1898 boots. You see a lot of photos with the boots just slung inside the pack like this. So whichever ones you're not wearing, go in there, stay there. And these ones are a lot less comfortable than the ones I'm wearing. So they'll stay there and they'll count as my weight. So they're about 3 pounds, which is kind of cheating, but we'll go off from that. On the front of the pack, regular old leather straps, quick disconnect hook down there. And there's actually a loop down here for your belts if you wanted to run your waist belt through it. I don't bother because I can't put my arms behind my back that well. So just to put that on, let's see if I can do this without hurting myself. And it's just one swing that way, up, and then grab the loop. Oh, I might get it. There we go. Got it. I'm on. So that's probably about 15 pounds on its own. I think I'd have to add another 10 pounds to be within the rules of the Verostalico march. So I'm going to put some more up here later, keep it in the front pouch, kind of give me some counterbalance. What these later packs don't have are, there's actually, you can see older ones that have a little button here for an additional strap that would actually come down and connect to your cartridge boxes right down here. So all that weight that's pulling back on you could be counterweighted by your front pack. That's basically it for standard marching. I don't have a rifle because we're in a public park and we don't want to get the federales after us. Not yet anyway. What was I going to show on this one? Yeah, that's basically it. Let's see here. Oh yeah, there's extra, you'd carry your extra pants and cleaning kits like I said in here. In mine, I actually have the personal cleaning kit in the back, which has a shoe brush, a clothes brush, your grease for your boots, cleaning kit for scraping mud and horse dung off your shoes. But I think that basically covers our marching kit. And it's already feeling a little bit heavy, but I think we'll be okay. Yeah, like I said, the putties are comfortable. We see a lot of photos of guys in the field, actually a lot of postcards from the day. We have like 500 different postcards from World War I in Switzerland. The putties are Swiss surplus. I have no idea what year they are. They're probably 50s or 60s, but they're functionally identical and they're physically, identical to what was worn. Very infantry things. So you did see some felt gaiters, leather gaiters, all different kinds of troops. But as far as I know, the infantry either had nothing on their pants, short putties, or long putties like this. We like the long putties because they look good and they're comfortable, keep the legs warm, feels good. All right, I think we're good. Right on. Okay, so we're going to show you some of the internals of the tornister or backpack and where they were kept more or less. I don't have a lot in here, but we have enough. So on the very front here, there's this little pouch, and you would basically carry your Mannputzeg, I can't pronounce that in German, but your cleaning kit, which sits in the front here. You'd also have a washcloth and I think a hand towel. And I can talk more about the mechanics of the pack in a bit, but basically in here you've got sewing kit, leather wax, boot grease, all that's in here. There's another sewing needle in here, spare needle and thread, spare buttons. This is your clothes brush. Let's see if I can get that. Kleiderbrush. Oh God, if this makes it to YouTube, we're gonna get made fun of for pronunciation. But clothes brush is on there. And the other one is your shoe brush for cleaning. It's a little more stiff for getting the mud and stuff off your boots if you need to. So that stays in there. On the top of the pack, which we would have shown earlier, are your Zeltband poles. So there's your Swiss pack. Funny enough, they use the same one from 1901 until the early 50s. And these ones are dated 1942, but they are identical to World War I. And believe it or not, we got them at Princess Auto for about $6 a piece, which was kind of a nice find, better than paying $35 out of Switzerland. So there's one of the poles, and you get 3. And see if I can get one of the pegs out of here. And that's an aluminum tent peg right there. So they nest inside the bag like that, and it's enough for one man to set up a basic shelter with a Zelt, or 2 men to set up an A-frame tent with 2 Zelt bonds buttoned together. So I'll put that aside for now. So to get this stuff out, you undo these 2 straps, the lid flips up. So here's my Ordnance 1898 mountain boots, as far as I know. We don't have a lot of information on these guys, but these ones are dated 1943. They do fit, they're kind of comfortable, they hurt your toes after a while, and they're very heavy. So you can see all that studded iron on the bottom, and lots and lots and lots of hobnails. Very heavy, very stiff. Your feet get cold super quick in these because that leaches a lot of heat out of your shoes, or out of your feet, I should say. And they sit on the pack like that, and under that is the Zeltbahn itself. So these are actually late production ones too, but again, functionally and physically identical to the 1901 pattern that was worn during World War I. And this is your half tent shelter. Again, like I said, buttoned together with these little guys right here with another one, and you can make an A-frame tent. And it can also double as a rain poncho, which is what most of these ropes on the inside are for, like this big guy here. You can drape it over your shoulders and keep the rain off your kit, off your knapsack. The only thing that'll get wet is your head. It's actually pretty neat. Good. Right on. Okay, so we just got a couple more things we want to show off before we get marching. So on top of all my regular soldier stuff, you'd always get a bayonet. And with the Swiss, it's the same bayonet in use from about 1890 with the Model 89 infantry gewehr, all the way up until the K31 replaced almost everything with a very similar bayonet, but slightly different. So this one is my infantry gewehr bayonet, 1889. Nice and simple, fuller on both sides, one side sharp, pointy end here, flat end here. And later upgrades to the bayonet are kind of subtle, but they're basically to keep it in the scabbard better. So these bayonets, a lot of them were modified with a rivet right here. And if you Google whatever, an 1889/99 bayonet, more or less, it'll have the rivet. And then later on, they started manufacturing them brand new with a little bump right here. So the clip in your scabbard holds it in place and it doesn't rattle loose. I've never had this one rattle loose myself, but evidently it was a problem because they did fix it. And like I said, if the Swiss had something that worked, they didn't change it, you know, for almost 100 years sometimes. In this instance, they changed it in under 10 years. So I'll put that back in, button facing me, in she goes. And the last thing I want to show you is the Zelt bond. So I'm just going to step over here and grab that. So like we showed you before, this sits in the back of your knapsack, your tornister, and it folds up any way you want. But this is your tent shelter and a rain poncho at the same time. So for me to open this guy up, there we go. So that would be the inside. And the ropes, the big long ones you see, double as your guy lines for setting up the tent, but they're also for wearing this. So that big one goes around your waist, and the small one up here is around your neck. And let's see if I can get this on without messing anything up. So if you needed to, you could pull this right out of the back of your pack on the fly, more or less. Probably get a buddy to help you, which is like how most military stuff is designed. So that goes like that, around the back. There we go. And this one is just a simple little knot. Let's see if I can get this. And hopefully you can still hear me. We're good. So you could just wear it like that. That's very basic. The next step, let's see if I can get this one where it's supposed to be, is, yeah, I'm missing a loop. I'll worry about that later. You can hike this up, take your major line, which is your tent line, right around your waist. Give that a little tug. Simple little knot. And there you go. So now that's up around your waist so it doesn't drag on the floor too much. And I won't go through it at this point, but you should be able to button up all your buttons down here, all the way down to about where your waist is. And if you really wanted to, you can button up the top ones like so, more or less. This is where your buddy comes in handy. And keep the front of your uniform nice and dry. So like this, it works as a halfway decent rain poncho. This will keep all of your ammunition. It'll keep your rifle dry, very important. And if you had the pack on, this fits right over the pack too. And it's actually very functional. So like I said, this was introduced in 1901 and was in service for over 50 years. Very good piece of kit.